Back here on Daybreak, one of the most tragic human ironies is that religion is often the reason for war. More people have died in the name of God than for any other reason.
Yet the great religions of the world are all based on the same foundation that includes generosity, love, and peace. This common ground is the subject of a new book, Essential Spirituality, 7 Practices to Awaken the Heart and Mind. And author Dr. Roger Walsh is a physician, a philosopher, and he's here to join us to talk about how we can look to the world's religions to cultivate kindness, joy, wisdom, and other great qualities. Dr. Walsh, welcome. It's good to see you this morning.
Thanks very much.
I wanted to ask you about the fact that most of the religions of the world all claim that they are the ones that know God in the best way. And I'm wondering that these religions really do have a lot more in common than we think.
They really do, Marty, and I think that's one of the things we're discovering now, that this is the first time in human history we've had all the world's great religions available to us. So it's really the first time we've been able to look carefully and see that underneath the surface differences of languages and different words and terms, there really is a common core of understanding, and also, very interestingly, a common core of practices that people can do to open themselves to the spiritual dimensions of their lives.
This is the first test of the morning. Name the religions if you can, and tell us one of the common practices.
The world's great religions include the Western traditions, which spring from Judaism, and then Christianity and Islam. Then in India we have the main traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism, and in China Taoism and Confucianism. And those are called the world's great religions because they've had such an enormous impact on the world.
And so one common practice?
One common practice. Well, they all would argue, for example, for the importance of contribution and service to others. They say we don't live for ourselves alone. In fact, we try to live for ourselves alone. We just increase our egocentricity and our greed and fear, and it doesn't work in the end. And interestingly enough, there's a lot of psychological research which backs that up these days. The psychologists are rediscovering what the great sages have been telling us for thousands of years.
Now, speaking of research, one of the things that I read about your book is that it combines research with also personal experiences. So the things that you are writing about are things that you have experienced yourself or have practiced yourself.
Yes, I've been working with these practices for some 20 years now, which actually surprises me enormously, since I started off as a scientist and with no real belief in religion or spirituality whatsoever. But I tried practices such as meditation and contemplation and found they worked. They really changed my life and had a lot of benefits. So from there I've got into them quite deeply and really have come to appreciate the profound wisdom in each of the great traditions, and that they do have these practices in common. They do say, yes, we contribution to others, living ethically, and they teach us how, for example, to transform emotions, to cultivate quality. Love, for example, is a universal value across the great traditions.
So there are 7 practices central practices that you mentioned. Let's talk about 1 or 2 that you think are most important for people to start with.
Well, of course, one of the crucial ones is that we were just talking about is transforming emotions. Each of the great traditions says that of the various emotions we experience, some, such as anger and fear and jealousy, are very destructive, not only to us, but to others as well. On the other hand, emotions such as love and compassion and joy both make us feel great and contribute to the well-being of others. And what's so remarkable is that they don't just say, this is the problem, these are the positive emotions, we should develop them. They give us techniques and practices for doing that. For example, one of the ones I love is for reducing anger. There's a very simple little thing that several traditions suggest, as if you're really having trouble letting go anger with someone, give them a gift. It's exactly the opposite to what we expect, but it's very interesting. You try it. You give someone a gift when you're really angry with them. You can't stay angry, and they can't stay angry.
That's true.
That's an interesting way to go about it. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, too, is the fact that there is so much interest now in spirituality. And I'm wondering, what do you attribute that to?
Well, I think there are several things, Marty. I think we're seeing a swing, and of course in American history there have been several swings from more interest in materialism and goods to a more spiritual life, and I think we're seeing another one of those. I think one of the unique features of this particular shift towards a more spiritual interest in the population is that we've had several decades in which we really science was almost our God. We really had the belief that science was going to solve all our problems. It was going to give us the technology which would make us happy and make the world peaceful and so forth. And, you know, science is an extraordinary tool, but unless it's used with great wisdom and compassion, it can be very destructive. And we see the weapons that are being developed. We see the ecological crises. Our science has outstripped our own wisdom, and I think that we're recognizing science alone isn't going to do it. We really are going to have to cultivate our inner world ourselves, just as we've developed the outer world so remarkably.
We were just talking yesterday about the power of prayer and how scientists are beginning to find out how important it is. Is that something that you have in here?
Yes, indeed. Of course, prayer is a common practice across all the world's traditions. And you're right, it's fascinating. There are now several quite well done scientific studies which have demonstrated that when people with illness are prayed for, they seem to recover more quickly from a variety of illnesses. Mm-hmm. Now, no one understands the mechanisms in terms of scientific thinking, but the data's there. It does seem that it helps.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you a lot. Here's the book. It's actually quite small. You can carry it around with you, but like a Bible. Dr. Walsh, we appreciate you being with us. The book is called The Essential Spirituality, 7 Central Practices to Awaken Heart and Mind. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.